Why? Why am I doing this? After just over 2.5 years of training, why is this even something I'm considering? You know, I don't ever really plan on being Mr. Olympia. So what is the point? Why am I doing what I'm doing? That's what a lot of people have kind of been asking me. That's what a lot of people have kind of been thinking whenever I bring up the fact it's like, yeah, no, gonna be doing the stuff, you know? Joining the dark side, as many have referred to it as. So, if I don't plan on being, you know, one of the great competitors of the bodybuilding world, of bodybuilding history, what's the point? To a lot of people, when they look into the future and they aren't able to see success through a certain endeavor, that endeavor becomes pointless. Why would you set yourself up for a situation where you're gonna lose or not be that great? Like, what's the point there? Well, a lot of people are looking for material returns on their investments. You see that a lot in life, you know? If, you know, a certain bet isn't, you know, you're not going to get a good payout for it, what is the point, you know? Like, you have a good chance of losing money, why would you even risk it? And that's what a lot of people don't understand, I think, about the act of, at least my reasons for doing what I'm doing. Because, you know, I'm very aware of the risks. I'm very aware that, you know, my best placings, you know, if I'm able to get a pro card, might be 5th place at a pro show. That might be the best I ever do. And once again, a lot of people hear that and it's like, why the hell are you doing? Who wants to do something with the best outcome being a 5th place finish? This guy right here. Bodybuilding is something that has brought me, that has given me so much. My whole journey began September of 2022. Grew up being a little bit more of a skinny rascal in high school kind of deal, you know, cross-country runner, band kid, choir kid, theater kid, all that stuff like that. And, you know, I grew up not feeling too masculine about myself. You know, a lot of things I ended up doing in my free time, a lot of the, you know, activities I kind of put myself in, like, they weren't your man's kind of, you know, work kind of activities and stuff like that. And admittedly, it never really caused me any anguish in the moment, but being a man but not being seen as a man, I feel like a lot of guys could maybe relate to. It hurts a lot, especially in a culture, you know, in America, more or less, where it's just like, if you aren't able to do the manly things, what is your value? You know, if you aren't able to be a man, you're a little bit of nothing. Ugh. So, once I got out of high school, I was able to have, a bit more free time in college kind of deal. That free time was spent in the gym because, for me, it was like, what do traditional manly men do? Well, they lift. They have muscle. And I thought by lifting, by having muscle, boom, I'd be respected. I thought that's how that worked. And, fortunately, through my endeavors of lifting, I found that, it's not really about the muscle you hold. It's about the respect you give yourself. So through bodybuilding, the act of moving some weight, I kind of found out my brand of masculinity. One where you lead by action, one where you're kind, considerate, want to help the small guy, one where you're simply confident in your abilities and, willing to lift others up with that confidence as well. And it's one of those things that, had I not, started lifting, I may have never realized it, And that confidence, that I gained by kind of, finding that, form of masculinity, has allowed me to go out and do some pretty darn cool things. And, one of those cool things that it kind of encouraged me to do, I mean, very on brand for starting lifting, I did a bodybuilding show 2 years after I started lifting, like right on the money. And to put it mildly, my training methods, my diet, and all that stuff, up until I think the last 6 months, approaching of 6 months before that show, were not great. They were actually quite bad. So it was one of those things where I stepped on stage, and guess what I placed? In the 2 classes, the 2 kind of division things or whatever you want to call them, categories I did, I placed 4th out of 5 and 5 out of 5. A lot of people will hear that and be like, oh, yeesh, that's a bad experience right there. Why in the world would you want to do what you're doing when, you evidently are cut out for this? You did terribly competitively. What in the world are you thinking? There's more that bodybuilding has given me through other means, I'm thinking that just because I lost a show doesn't mean all the hard work, all the training, all the dieting, everything in between, all the cardio. There was a message, there was a meaning behind it. It just didn't translate into a victory. It translated into quite a bad loss, in all honesty. And that's the thing. You get so much by just putting in the work and doing your best. And a lot of people hear that and be like, well, just do your best naturally. Why don't you just do that? Because I'm silly. Because I'm a little goofy, and I'm stupid passionate about this. I'm stupid passionate about it. It's one of those things where if I don't do it, I'm simply just going to regret it. And people will then say, well, aren't you going to regret doing it if it turns out going haywire? No. No. Because to me, the act of trying is always going to be the better action. It's always going to be the better action than just not doing. Do or do not. There is no try. Said a green man once. A lot of people here, it's like, well, you're going to be doing this. What are the goals? What are the dreams? I mean, I have Phoebe Pro card. I feel like it's a pretty simple explanation. But then it's like, well, what's your goal after that? Like, are you just gonna get that and be done? Are you gonna, put your body through the ringer just for a pro card? No, I'm gonna keep competing and doing my darndest. What ifs have always eaten at me. In my life, there have been so many what ifs, whether it be relationships with other people, whether it be opportunities that I passed, whether it be opportunities I chose over another, whether it be people I chose over another, whether it be word choices, whether it be anything. I live in the past more than the present a lot of the time. And with something such as bodybuilding that has given me so much, I wouldn't be able to go through life content knowing that I left stuff on the table. And admittedly, the stuff I'd be leaving on the table probably would honestly be a little maybe safer to keep on the table. But my philosophy of life is you aren't required to go out and try to live a great life. You're not required, you owe nothing to this life. It's simply yours. But your life is a waste if you choose not to try to be great. And the concept of greatness is it's a human one. You think the stars care, if you end up becoming, let's say, President of the United States, you end up winning the lottery, becoming a billionaire? No. Greatness only exists in our time, in our being in the moment. So what's the point of anything? The point of anything is to give it a point. That's why I believe we're here. There's no inherent reason. We have to give it a reason. And simply my reason I've given myself is to try to be great. I'm here to bust my ass. I'm here to do my darndest. I'm here to give it all I got. And to step away from that, little moniker I've kind of been, unintentionally for a second living for, but now am intentionally living for and with, like, I'm stepping away from the thing that I feel really makes me a human. And, when in this world the only person you really got is yourself, I'd be a damn fool not to do my best for myself. So we're going to do this thing. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be incredibly exciting, incredibly scary at the same time. But damn, we're going to do it. And I'm excited to see where things go. What are my goals by doing something like this? To try to be great. To try to be great. And that may not come in the form of, touching the Olympia stage. It may not come in the form of winning a pro show. It may not even come in the form of getting in the top 5 in a pro show. But when you put in the work, when you have a clear, thought-out idea of what you want, you will get your answers. Life has a funny way of giving people what they deserve. You just have to trust and live with goodness in your heart. Go forth. Do what you do. New chapter.